Good evening, and welcome to The Caring View, the online health and social care platform available to absolutely anybody on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, anything else that you might find yourself on social medias. Before we get started, do not forget that the views expressed tonight are of our own and nobody else's. Go to www.thecaringview.co.uk for all of our website resources, all of our podcasting, and all of our episodes. And find us on Spotify, give us a like, give us a subscribe, do what you want. Tonight, we're discussing the benefits of social care consultancies. Are there benefits of social care consultancies? I'm going to say yes, because I've got a room full of fabulous guests who will be telling me that there is. So I'm just going to give you all a quick introduction or let you introduce yourselves, and then we'll get into tonight's conversation. So Anushka, for those who may not know you and how they do not know you, I do not know how, do you want to give yourself a bit of an intro for me?
Hi everyone, my name is Anushka Farouk and I'm the Director of Adventuring Therapies. I run wellbeing workshops for social care, mainly care for carers workshops, but also do lots of one-to-one work with senior managers. I'm also a rapid transformational therapist, which is a form of hypnotherapy, which treats emotional issues like PTSD and other kind of debilitating emotional disorders like anxiety, depression, those sorts of things. That's me.
Thank you so much, Anushka. Now I'm going to, I'll do a double whammy here with Charlie and Bhavna. Bhavna, do you want to go first?
Right. My name is Bhavna Keen-Rao. I am the Managing Director of BKR Care Consultancy. Previous to that, I was part of CQC for over 23 years, started as an inspector, ending up as a senior practitioner within the CQC, being involved with the rating review previously, etc. My other hat I have worn is advisor to International Care Ethics Observatory, as well as being very much involved in the Alliance for Sustainability. I work very closely with my dear colleague, our fellow director, who's also here. So over to her.
Hi, I'm Charlie Jones. I'm the Care and Clinical Director with BKR Care Consultancy. I'm a nurse of 24 years now, which when I sit and calculate that always makes me feel surprisingly old. I manage the day-to-day team, undertake a lot of the expert witness cases that we cover as a consultancy, and generally annoy and quality assure everything that leaves us, working very closely with Bhavna to ensure that the standard that we preach is the standard that we meet.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Charlie. And I feel you on that sort of timeline pain. We were driving the other day, my partner and I, and he was like, how long have you been driving now? And I was like, I've got to count on two hands because I'm terrible at math. I was like, 17 years. I almost threw up on the spot. I was like, 17 years I've been driving. Half my life. What? Oh, time goes so fast.
I've been trusted with a car for less time than people. It's worrying, really.
Oh, dear. And
stop it.
Last but not least, joining us tonight is the Mary Poppins herself, Paula Cashmere. Paula Cashmore, do you want to give us a quick introduction?
You lot make me feel very ancient. I've been nursing for 40 years, driving for almost the same length of time. I'm the director and the sole owner of paulacashmore.co.uk, and I run quality care management support. I'm a single person quality consultant. I've been a manager. I've done every job within a care home, and I'm really passionate about meeting people where they're at and checking that their compliance is spot on.
Thank you so much, Paula. And Paula, I hope you don't mind me saying, I know we've not got the promos and everything out yet because we're still waiting on little bits and bobs, but we are really happy that Paula is sponsoring us for the care show this year coming up in October. It's going to be absolutely fab. Please make sure you come down. We've got 4 live shows while we're there this time round. It's just going to be great. Fully interactive, really exciting. Care Show Birmingham, 11th and 12th of October, I think, at the Birmingham NEC. So do make sure you get yourself down there. And all of our goodies and freebies are full courtesy of Paula Cashmore. So thank you so much, Paula. Right, okie dokie. So let's not beat around the bush and let's get started in tonight. And I think the first thing I want to ask is, what is a consultant? I think it's something that if we're going to have the conversation tonight, we need to know. So I don't know whether there's a textbook answer for this, whether it's in the dictionary or whether it's more of an ambiguous it depends on how you look at it thing. But I thought it might be good if we all just give our sort of views on what is a consultant and what it means to be a consultant. And Anushka, I'm going to come to you first.
Okay, so I'm glad you came to me first, because I'm not a consultant, but I'm surrounded by consultants that are, you know, if you're in the market looking for somebody that has walked in your shoes, that has felt the pain of what you're going through, you're looking for a consultant that is going to share, it's going to be peer support for you. It's going to give you that expert advice that's been there, done that, has felt what you've felt, and can lift you out of some difficult situations. And the way I see it is, the difference between a coach, which I am, and a consultant is, a consultant can provide the strategies for you to do all the things that they have done throughout their lives to get them out of these tricky situations, whether it be leadership support. I mean, there are a variety of different types of consultants, different flavors of consultants. One of them might be leadership support. Others are regulatory and CQC, and others are kind of more around the leaders sort of growth mindset piece. And then you get the emotional side of things, which is a completely different kind of more therapeutic side. So that comes into coaching. And the way I describe coaching is that a consultant gives you the blueprint for you to practice what they've practiced, and a coach kind of gets in the hole with you, and shoulder to shoulder, kind of, you have to sort of be vulnerable with a coach and kind of get to the core, the root of the problem, and kind of lift yourself up shoulder to shoulder with that coach. And it's got to be something that can be quite painful at times, quite vulnerable, but getting to the source of the emotional difficulties. I think it's slightly different, but they both work hand in hand.
Yeah, and I mean, I love all those points, and I'm just remembering a number of consultants I've had in the past, or even, you know, people I've sat down and talked to about mental health, and they'll go, "Have you done anything about your weight, though?" I'm like, "No, don't attack me! Don't attack me! Stuff's hard to hear. You know, it's hard to hear things that are wrong and that you need to fix. Honestly,
I do think you're right. I think, Adam, you know,
that I need to lose weight. Is that what you're saying?
No. Let's not go there, okay? I get so many comments. People do think, as a consultant, that when you go in, that you're an open target the minute you walk in. But I think the interesting part about a word consultancy is that people think that you're going to sort everything out with the magic wand. They'll give you money and you'll sort it out. But I think for us, and we've kind of like evolved from that. So we go into the improvement side, but I think we also do the mentoring side. And I think, you know, Charlie will probably talk about that a lot more. But for me, it's always been about, and we do turn down work where we feel we can't lend value. Because for us, the word consultancy is used so openly and broadly for a multitude of sins. I mean, you said, Adam, earlier on, and you did say that anyone, can be a consultant, and usually it's a tagline that they apply. Oh, I'll be a consultant when I retire. Well, I always say that I've had two careers, one as CQC person and one as a consultancy. I feel that my second career has given me so much value. I get so much job satisfaction because I'm physically in there. As CQC, you were going and identifying issues, but you were not able to advise or improve. As a consultant, you're able to identify through our mock inspection regime what the issues are and then support. And then we also have a training arm. So we actually train internally, mentoring, coaching. It all goes in, well, hand in hand. I think that for me is what a good consultant should be. And it really does upset me when I see people, perhaps, Charlie, you could pick up about some of the stuff that we've seen when we've gone to court for consultancy bit.
Yeah, sure. So certainly for me, a consultant is someone who can look at the issues you face, provide you support, an outlet, an idea wall, and an idea generator. The person, as Anushka says, can say to you, look, I've been through this. This is a situation I've seen before. Here's an idea. Let's move that forward. It's the person that you phone when you've run out of all of your own ideas. The person that can mediate with the authorities and be that middle ground. Really a jack of all trades, because what we do isn't a set task, particularly in social care. Certainly, I've seen consultants that don't really understand what a consultancy is. They may try to operate the business without any regard for what they're leaving behind or how it's going to be sustained. And we've certainly seen a number of tribunals, particularly recently, that have been very critical of the consultant's approach, which is certainly something that can be very embarrassing for a consultancy as well. You could end that consultancy's career.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions that I've got coming up later on around the sort of legitimacy, I think I would say, of consultancies. And I must apologise, I didn't say that. Mark's actually on annual leave this week, and I've forbid him from joining us tonight. He's probably somewhere up Mount Snowdon at the moment in Wales. And he's like, oh, I'll see what internet connection I've got. No, Mark, enjoy your rest. So if you see my head dashing about like this, it's because I'm literally a one-man band tonight trying to figure out how to pull comments up and do all of that all on my own, which I usually rely on Mark for. But we wish Mark a lovely annual leave, and he will be back next week with an exclusive with CQC. So, Paula, consultants, I mean, the dictionary definition to consult is to seek advice from a professional. And I think that's what we've all been expecting.
That's right, and that's what's in the word, isn't it? To consult somebody, and so it depends on what the service is consulting about as to which is the appropriate route to take. So, like Anushka says, if it's about staff well-being, manager burnout, then sometimes probably that therapeutic route is probably the best. But if that manager is burning out because of all the practical activities and the unknown that they have to do, then sometimes having a quality consultant to be able to prioritize the issues will help them more. So it's understanding what you're actually after in a consultant, because I'm a single person consultant, and Bhavna is a corporate bigger company. So we all offer different things, which is why the Caring View is so great, because it represents the whole of the social care sector. So thank you, Adam.
No, don't thank me. I'm a sucker. I do this every single Tuesday, don't get paid for it, and miss out on dinner with my partner. So, woo! So, I mean, we've got some basic ideas of what we think consultants are and what consultancy is. And I probably want to bring this up first, actually, so that we don't dwell on it too much and that we can get on to the most positive things. But we have just had some conversations off air. And yes, Bhavna, I did say I do believe consultant jobs are where people go to retire and die. Because the amount of people I hear going to retirement go, oh, I'm going to become a consultant now. And you see this aging workforce of consultants with probably archaic views a lot of the time, which is really concerning. But, I mean, we've just lost 2 senior CQC inspectors in our area. They've retired, and actually they've gone and set up a consultancy, and I start to think to myself, we talk about regulating the workforce, we regulate nurses, we have registered managers who aren't fully regulated but are to an extent, we're calling for regulation of care assistants and care workers, care professionals around the country, the horrific stuff that's been going on with the Lucy Letby case at the moment, and we're now looking at regulation of management within health and NHS services, because there is a war going on at the moment between clinicians and managers. Anyone can become a consultant. So my question is, should we have stricter regulations on consultancies for social care, for healthcare and social care? Because at the minute, anyone can become a consultant and go and say and do and provide advice, and not always good advice.
I think that would be impossible to do. And I think for 2 reasons. I think the wide variety that Paula alluded to, both of the style of consultancy, the nature of the work that clients want. Some need a combined approach, some need single services, and also the match that's right for you. I think it would be very, very difficult to come up with a single set. And who regulates? Because really, one of the main things that I certainly find myself doing as a consultant is challenging CQC or the various regulators across the country in terms of just today, they're precluding a home from doing something, but they can't point me to the legislation that allows them to preclude it. And there's therefore going to be a clear conflict of interest. So you're going to end up with a consultancy that regulates the consultants, but then you've got those privacy issues. It's a much more complex area of work. But I'll let Bhavna jump in there.
No, all I was going to say was that there should be criteria, because it makes people like me very, very cross, I have to say, when we go into any meetings or, we do awful lot of presentation. I'm forever going and having discussions about consultancy where people will pull us together with somebody who hasn't got a clue about being a consultant, is a consultant. So I'm sure Paula finds that frustrating as well, where we're all put together, whether we're ultra professional. We have systems in place. We have robust, checking, quality assurance. We spot check on our consultants, so on and so forth. So we are really regimental, and we would be considered as, say, any other person who decides that they want to be consultant. So we've done an article, Charlie, you wrote an article about a few months ago about the importance of being really scrutinizing and actually being really clear what you want from a consultant. Having that wish list and saying, this is what we want, this is how much we're going to pay, and this is what we, almost like an action plan. When we go in and it's a long-term project, we will do a mock inspection, provide an action plan, say, this is where we know you're at, this is where we want you to get to, and this is how we will try and do that. However, we will never fall into, we don't, have these, people will say, if you get us an outstanding, because your track record is such that you've got outstanding for so many care providers, we want you to get us an outstanding and we'll pay you a bonus. Well, we don't play that game. We're not about that. It's more about the sustainability approach. Judges love us in court when we're able to evidence this is the way we've done it, and it'll take us X amount of time to get there. We will never give you a quick fix. And I think some consultants do that, and I think that's the dangerous part. So it's about scrutiny when you're recruiting or commissioning a task or commissioning something. So it's about providers being really clear and, doing their due diligence before they start on a consultancy. So I think that's really important. And it is frustrating because and that's one of the reasons we won't work with other consultancy, because it becomes very frictional, and somebody will say, oh, it's because you're jealous or you're this, that. We just don't want to engage in that behavior. We are happy, thank you very much, in what we're doing.
In those bigger situations, Bhavna, you can see that the lines get blurred with multiple consultants. From a single operator point of view, I don't have those same problems. I choose who I work with. They approach me and we have that discovery call. So they know when they approach Paula Cashmore, they will get Paula Cashmore. One of the problems that I do have, though, is giving a different outcome to the regulators. So if a local authority have done a PAMS or local authority have done their ADAS inspection and they think they're good, and then I find out actually from the evidence that I see it requires improvement or even worse, inadequate, they don't take to it kindly. It's very hard to hear. That's where people have to be open. And also, I think, like you say, consultants offer that follow-up and the idea for implementation, because it's no good just going in and giving them an action plan. If you go in and give them an action plan, it's going to fail because they've got those actions there anyway. They didn't see them before you were there. They're not going to plug them when you've gone. So you need to be able to give that support as a consultant. And that's part of my package, as in they get the follow-up support for 3 months, even with just a mock inspection, and a bit like you and your training arm and things like that.
I just think it's I don't have the answer. I never have the answer to half the stuff I talk about. Anushka, is there anything you want to add to that?
I think it's all been said, but what I would say is that I think it does require, it's horses for courses. Everyone's different and everyone's going to resonate with a different consultant, coach, therapist, whatever was right for them. And we have all these different flavors of consultants for a reason, but it's not only that, it's also it's about what the problem is and who to go to, but also who you connect with and who you identify with. You're more likely to get the results when you actually can look into the whites of that person's eyes and say, do you know what, I really trust Bhavna, she's going to sort this out. And you get that sense of, right, she's the right consultant for me. And I think it's going to be a personal choice as to who you choose and why, and you will get the results if you put your full belief into that person and trust and become completely vulnerable. I think that's super important to get the results that you want from whatever problems you're trying to solve.
And there are facilities that a bigger group like Bhavna's can give that a single person can't give. So like you say, it's doing your due diligence and working out what is the right consultancy for you.
Yeah, I mean Sorry, James in the comments, just quickly, he's come in and said that, doesn't think it's possible to regulate consultants to draw on their experiences, mindset and approach. It's all that very much individual experience, but actually there is the due diligence of the providers as well. And Bhavna, that's what I wanted to touch upon about what you were saying before, is you can hire a consultant to go in and go, this is everything that's wrong. But unless that provider puts in the effort, puts in the work and really commits to embedding it into culture, you could give them all the answers every single day. Unless they're willing to do the legwork and the work themselves, nothing will ever change.
The problem you have is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
People don't drift into people. I keep saying, so whether we're in court or whatever we're doing, I always say humans generally are nice. There's a minute percent who are absolutely evil. Most of the time they fall into a trap. Something's gone wrong and they've made a bad decision, and then they've tried to cover up and not got defensive or whatever. That's the slippery slope. Most of the time people are doing things, they tick box. Oh yes, medication, tick box. When we go in, our consultants have been trained and worked with us for years now. So when we go in, we are really clear. If a consultant says to Charlie, they don't, it's given that they've checked it. If they say to Charlie the medication was okay, that means they physically checked it and then said to Charlie it's okay. It's not about, one size fits all, but it's about that responsibility that comes with being a consultant. And I guess with my hat on for the ethical side of things, I'm really clear about that. We do a lot of pro bono because and the trainings, we do trainings for banks, lawyers, so on and so forth, because that's an important thing for us to do to get the message across. But it is about the providers must do their due diligence. If somebody is giving you something for nothing, if it's too good to be true, my mum used to always say, if it's too good to be true, chances are it's not that good. And for me, that's really important for us.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And, we've got another comment in the chat talking around the real question is, do you want a good rating or do you want to improve lives? And I'm sure I'm going to come on to that later because that's one of my biggest bugbears when it comes down to quality and care. But why might a social care provider need to look for a consultancy or for a consultant? What are some of the reasons why people who are watching this tonight, people who are out there scouring Google nearest consultants to me, what are some of the things they might be facing that will lead them down the consultancy angle?
I think for me, we're seeing an increase in people that are actually looking from a quality assurance point of view. Whereas certainly if I go back 5-7 years, it was very much we've hit a crisis. Somebody else has found that we've got a problem or a significant event has happened. Can you come in and help us get over that hump? That idea of actually let's get these people to go away. And they're the type of client that we typically would have turned down because actually it's not about CQC or whoever it may be going away. It's about the quality of care that you're offering. If that's not what you're interested in, we can't help. But I think the majority of clients, 80% or so, still come because they've hit a problem. And it may be a wider range of problems, some compliance, some where it's a specific incident or a cultural issue that's taken place. We've got a few clients, bizarrely, that have found themselves owning homes either through bereavement, so their partner owned the home, they've inherited it, or some very strange business dealings where people have walked away, they were the silent investor and now they own a care home. And going back to that sort of quality, Bhavna's laughing because we recently came across a consultant who we took over a service from, who had all of his homes closed by CQC. Subsequent to that, took out some other sort of business where the health and safety executive fined him, all publicly available by just searching the individual by name. What quality can they offer you? And if you don't have that list of what is it that I need from this relationship, what is my issue, even to the extent that you feel it is. And I slightly disagree with Paula. Sometimes individuals need the action plan because they couldn't identify their issues, and with some nudging can look at that scope. We do go back and we do provide some support off-site, but not all of our clients require that direct support. But if you don't know what your skill set of your staff team is either, you don't know what you need the consultant for and what you should be delivering internally. And what you can deliver internally is important because it's less of a journey to maintain it after the consultancy period is finished. I'm sure Paula has that problem with some of her clients in terms of sustaining the improvement she's helping towards.
I think it is about that you know, the action plan becomes a thing that they can hang, you know, and okay, this is the issue, this is what we've identified, this is how we can support you. And it's not one size fits all. It never has been about that. We get called in to produce an action plan and then go back again to support them with the, you know, checking out to see if they've got it right, if they understood it right. So I think the whole thing about consultancy, it's a huge umbrella, and there are so many people working under it, some with amazing experiences, so, and you know, from all walks of life. If you look at our consultant, we've got a specialist, you know, head of safeguarding, we've got quality assurance people, we've got health and safety people, we've got moving and handling specialists, we've got majority of them are care managers or nursing, you know, nurses or whatever. So it's about that specialism, but what else do they bring with that specialism? So we want more for a consultant. For me, if I was recruiting a consultant, I want a lot more that they can give. So their transferable skills is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a CQC, ex-CQC person, although I am CQC, ex-CQC, and I've been trained by the best in the field. So, you know, it's about that. That's what I would be looking for at a much more strategic level.
Yeah. And I must say, I have a newfound love for CQC now that I'm going into a new quality role. CQC are my best friends. Hopefully they're listening and watching tonight. Paula?
I think most of my approaches are either new acquisitions, like Bhavna says, that they want to know where they're at with their new business, or managers that are just stuck, not so much burnt out, but just stuck and just want a little bit of propping up, a little bit of support, a little bit of just having a look at what priorities should be and helping them know what the best next step to do. So I've got a few clients that, from a successful point of view, have gone from weekly visits to monthly to quarterly. And I think people that are a single operator or just operate a couple of homes, they just need that oversight, that Regulation 17 assurance that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. Anushka, I'm going to ask you, I do want to come to you as well, because obviously you're the more well-being and the mental health and that sort of looking after ourselves side of things. I must talk to you much more because, you know, I just must. But what's your view on this? What are the most sought after things that you're seeing from providers or that you're aware of?
I think the area that we probably ought to think about and definitely not forget is recruitment and retention and high turnover of staff that we see. Because when we've got issues in the team, as a manager, and some managers in the audience might not like to hear this, but sometimes if we're having a high turnover of staff or there's not a cohesive, happy, happy, high-performing team, then we have to look at ourselves. How are we thinking, feeling? What's our mental health like? What's our emotional well-being like? Because it has a direct impact on our team. And there are a lot of leadership coaches out there and consultants that will really kind of unpick what the practical ideas, practical things you can do to get your workload under, in organisation and get the sort of the day-to-day in a good place, but actually outside of the day-to-day, simply the person that you are as you walk into the room. You can paint on that smile and be ready for the day, but actually if inside you're absolutely crumbling and exhausted, that has a knock-on effect to not only the people that you're working with, your team, and the bitchiness begins, and the people kind of talking behind your back, all of that sort of stuff that we know happens, but also that has a knock-on effect on our beloved residents as well. So this is a kind of a cultural, energetic thing that we need to kind of, and I don't want to put all the onus on the managers who know how much stress and responsibility they have, but actually it does start with you. And if you come to work, and I've seen some fantastic managers that have such great energy and they walk into a room and they're surrounded by a team that absolutely love them, they're all willing, they're all going over and above, and the residents have got big smiles on their faces, and that's the kind of energy you want circulating through the home or the organisation. So I think you'd want to look for a social care consultant of some kind if you had issues with retention and people leaving left, right and centre. You'd wonder why people are leaving if it wasn't a great place to work. And
You're
unfortunately,
right.
you've got to look at yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
You're so right, Anuksha. Whenever I go into care home, or one of us goes in care home, we will go and check at the staffing facilities, staffing areas, because you might have the most incredible care homes, and then you go and look at the staff areas. It's just bare, plaggy chairs, tables, hardly anything there. What does that say about the staff? So it's about that clear leadership, valuing the staff. The retention comes from, I don't even think it's all about money, what you pay people. It's about how you treat them. It's how you respect them. It's how you engage with them, how you keep them together. People talk about family area, oh, this is like a family care provider. And I would say to them, you wouldn't treat your family like that. You just wouldn't. So it's about rethinking the way we are. If you want somebody to be loyal to you and respectful, it comes back to how you treat them, how you respect them. And I think it's about that. And it is joyful. Leadership can be the most incredibly powerful tool ever. Done right. Do it wrong, you destroy lives. You can make people's life absolutely miserable.
I mean, I love leadership. It's what I do at this moment in time. And when I retire, I'm going to become a leadership consultant. No, I'm not. I'm joking.
You'll be great, Adam. You'll be great.
So, Adam, if you can start with educating providers when a consultant's needed and when somebody like Anushka's services are needed.
Yeah.
The manager that's saying to you, I'm struggling to understand how to manage all of this, needs a consultant to come in and give them that mentoring. A manager that's saying, I'm struggling, needs somebody to talk to, and often bringing in a consultant at that point is seen as, you don't trust me. It actually undermines somebody who's already struggling mentally, and actually
not only
somebody
that,
who can help them to work it through.
Yeah, costs you a fortune. Knowing when to get the consultant at the right time saves you pennies. Let's be honest, it's expensive consultancy. I mean, personal story from my side, I always remember when I was a manager, I thought I was the bee's knees. I thought I was dog's bees. I was like, oh, I'm amazing. I had staff leave. I had, grievances put against me. We got not just me, the whole leadership management team. It wasn't just me in this organization. There was more of us. And we got a consultant, and he basically said, well, it's because you're rubbish. Well, not as bluntly. And that's self-reflection. And actually, how do we improve? How do we look at ourselves? How do we become better leaders of ourselves? How do we love ourselves more? Because if we love ourselves more, we'll love our team more. But how can we be selfish as well? So we talk around, especially at the Institute, I'm still part of it, so I'll say, we talk around looking after ourselves as proper selfishness. And, when the gas mask comes down in a plane, you put it on first because you need to be able to support yourself, to support others. And I will always remember, this is for any manager that's listening, and I've told this story about a million times. It's so important that we do look after ourselves, to look after our teams, because when you walk out of work, work carries on. When you leave your life to go into work, life doesn't wait for you. Your life disappears without you noticing it. And I was holding my dad's hand on his deathbed, kissing his forehead. It's all right, Dad, you can go now. Don't worry about it. With my on-call phone going off in the other hand, I can't come into work tonight. I'm sick. This. And I've been on call for nearly 2 years straight. 2 years straight. And I think to myself, those 2 years that I did have good times with my dad, but so many times I've been at his and gone, oh, I'm really sorry, the on-call's gone. I'm going to have to go off. I'm going to have to leave. It's about looking after ourselves, because if we can't, then we can't support a team. We can't lead teams. But it's also about making those difficult decisions. Yeah. If you've got crap team members that are not working with you, don't want to be a part of the team, aren't getting involved, don't promote them so they're out the way, get rid of them. If you promote them so they're out of the way, you're going to lose the trust of the rest of your team. It's about making those difficult decisions, holding people to account, and supporting the best outcomes we can have for the people that we're that are living in our services. That's like my 2 pence worth on leadership.
No, I think you're right. I think you are so right, Adam. We're in a really unique business. People really struggle with care as a business. That's the problem, because as human beings, we are interacting all the time. There's a social element, but care as a business where you're charging for provision of those services is a different beast. And I think CQC struggle, local authorities struggle, everyone seems to struggle, because care as a concept women tend to be the ones that are pushed in, you will look after your mum and dad and work on the side and da 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 da. So that's why we've got predominantly female-led groups. So, it's actually working through those, and yet the narratives is very much led by male dominant. So I think it's about, we just need to unpick that one and discuss the diversity and inclusion agendas. And the well-being thing is so critical. And everyone keeps saying to me, why are we suddenly talking about well-being and wellness and all of that? We've always done it. No, actually, it's been highlighted a lot more. And COVID has somehow made it much more magnified. So we do need to talk about that. But coming back to the whole consultancy thing, consultancy.
Yeah, keep us on track for the show, Bhavna. I might bring you back each week because I do just go off on a tangent without Mark. So yeah, keep us on track.
So for me, the whole thing about consultancy, genuinely, is that when we're working in care homes, and we've been consultancy, we went to court and were able to have set a precedent on being able to be nominated individual for care homes. So as Charlie's been NI for a number of care homes, and we've done that. But with that comes responsibility. So when staff don't turn up, we've all rolled up our sleeves and been in the kitchen and cooked. We've held somebody's hand because families couldn't be there when they're ill. We will chop and change because it's a care business. We will do that because it's the right thing to do. For me, that's just the human basic fundamental. So it's not about the money side. It's about doing the right thing. Don't get me wrong. I don't like people taking the mickey out of us either. And we won't allow that. So for me, it's really important, that balance.
One of the things you were saying about leadership and managing your team well, that's where another good consultant can come in, because it can be good cop, bad cop. So the manager doesn't have to take the flak. They can divert that decision to the consultant. If the manager's sort of getting that burnt out feeling, they can blame the consultant, and the consultant can say, look, this is my point of view. So that
we do get called in to be kind of like, we get in between the providers and the manager sometimes, because the manager's saying, the provider's saying, oh no, everything's fine, the manager's doing really well, and the manager's saying, I'm almost dead, I can't cope anymore. And we often become mediators. Whilst our role as mediator is very, very strong, we get corporate care providers using us between CQC and themselves, because we're able to navigate that and say, actually, this is the way you should be doing it. Or CQC, you've got it wrong. Providers, you've got this wrong. Let's sit together and talk. That works really well. And CQC listen to us.
I just had one more reason to hire a consultant that's just sprung to mind, is that as I'm listening to everyone, I'm thinking the perspective in this room, just in this virtual room, is so diverse. And I think when you reach out to somebody that has a different perspective on what you're seeing, and often as a manager or a leader, you're so far in the weeds of things, you have to kind of zoom right out to get clarity and get wisdom and get perspective, but there's no time to do it. That's why when people say to me, I don't have time to meditate, I don't have time to go for a walk, or I don't have time to take a break. Actually, what a social care consultant can do for you is give you that zooming out space, and can actually see things, shine a different light on a particular problem, and really kind of remove some of that stress, because we can't see the problem when we're so close to it, and we have to get a little bit further back. And that's what a third party can often do, is just take a completely different view on the situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a client that rang us exactly that scenario. He rang me up late at night. He's really angry and cross, and he's saying his team have basically all lost their minds, and it was a medication related issue. And what the internal team were advising him to do, he thought was lunacy. And when we talked it through, oh, actually, no, it's much more reasonable than it sounds. And he'd just never come across the problem before. And the various team members had come across an element of it before. And they were concerned not just with the risk within that service, but if they did, they can dismiss on the evidence that they had, but couldn't DBS them on the evidence they had. And there was a real risk to whoever they went on to look after. And the team were trying to secure that future risk. And all he was concerned about is my business reputation. My residents are at risk today. It was very much starting from that point of view, actually. But it was that external point of view that said, hang on a minute, I think your team might have this right. Trust them, go with them.
I mean, because we are, you know, as Paul said, we are a large organisation. So often somebody will, you know, Charlie deals with the operation, so on and so forth. The managing directors, the chair people, etc., will ring me up, often very late, and say, "Oh, I need to bounce this idea off you. You know, is this right? Is this correct? I got this from certain and such person. How does that work?" And I'll talk them through, and they go, "Okay, yeah, you're right," because we have that strategic oversight, or I have it at that level. Well, I will negotiate and discuss at board level much more. You know, the directors, the chair, so on and so forth. That perspective, that absolute bird's eye view, rather than drilling down, it just helps them to get that perspective right. So you're right, Anusha.
Yeah. Just before I forget, because it's come through and we were mentioning about staff rooms, there is a commenting on YouTube, on LinkedIn. So head over to LinkedIn and it's there. I will try and copy and paste it and put it onto YouTube for anyone watching on YouTube later or on catch up. Just around grants that exist for refurbing staff rooms. But no, I fully agree that fresh eyes on a scenario really do help. My partner was washing up pots earlier on today, right? And we've got one of them pan scrubbers that's got like a flared cookie base, and I always have it on the drainers board. And he was like, I just can't find it. Where's the scrubber? You've binned it. I was like, I've not binned it. We've got the scrubber. It's there. Where is it? Where is it? And he's searching for like 10 minutes. So I come in, you know, one of those, if I find it when I get in there. And it was there on the counter because you're so focused on trying to find the answer that you fail to see what's right in front of you. So I think it's super important to get that outsider's perspective on things. And I also think, just coming back to what you'd mentioned earlier, Charlie, around when is it right to get a consultant and when should we look at just getting general support? This is why peer support networks are essential. Managers groups, WhatsApp groups, social skills for care forums, the IHSCM forums. There are so many out there where you can go to people, look, I've got this problem. And I can tell you 9 times out of 10, other people have had that same problem. And they will, you know, support you through it. It'll trigger something in your brain. You'll go, oh, of course. Oh, of course. Oh, I should just do that. Oh, of course. You know, and it's really essential that we start working together now to improve ourselves before we have to start thinking, I need to go and get a consultant. But let's say that we've tried our peer support networks, services are failing, managers are at burnout, you know, directors are tearing their hairs out. What should providers look for from consultancies? So if they are thinking, actually, this is what I need to do now. I need to go and find a consultant or use a consultancy. Do I need to use a consultancy? What are the sort of things that they should be looking for? So top tip really, you know, providing them, you know, sell yourselves if you want to. It's not the BBC, I don't care. But what sort of things should people be looking for and what sort of things should they avoid?
If I start, Adam, if I may, and I'll roll Chris's question in the chat into my response.
You and Badner can come back because I am so bad at this. Chris's question.
You're juggling 3 plates as a minimum. But Chris is asking, you know, whether the registered manager, when a consultant's involved, is still responsible for the decisions and actions. Absolutely. And that's what I would be looking for first and foremost, a consultant that understands they're there to give advice. You're paying for advice, you don't have to take it. You know, I might go to the doctor says to me, Charlie, exercise more. I don't have to take that advice and nobody's going to come chase me down if I don't. Maybe the other half, you never know. But as a general rule, we're there to support the manager to come to a decision. If they don't agree with it, fine. If they don't agree with any advice, then we're the wrong consultancy. There's something not matching up there. But for me, you want a consultant that understands your problem, has experience in delivering to that problem. You want somebody with a bit of a track record, and you want to do your due diligence to make sure that they're fit and proper to be asking you, offering you advice, and that they understand that ultimately you are the registered party. And I think often the manager feels that they are the decision maker. There's also a nominated individual that's involved in that. The directors of a company have legal obligations and can be sanctioned and prosecuted. So there's a wider team than the registered manager. And I think too often we point back within the industry to that registered manager and ask them to sit in that hot chair and make all final decisions. And it's somebody that's willing to take that call when the manager's ready to talk, when the manager's ready to accept. And somebody with a thick skin would be my final thing on the list. Yeah. I always tell our team, we're like burglars. You leave the window open, In we come, we take the bits we like, we move around the bits we don't, and then we leave you with a bill. You have to be able to go in and do that sensitively and understand that it's going to take a bit of time to convince the individuals within that home that you're really not working for CQC, the local authority, CCG.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to push through that, well, we've tried that before, or we've tried that resistance that you initially tend to get, and then the open arms do follow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really is such an important thing about being sensitive. The amount of people, you walk in there, what you're saying is that we've come in to put it right, but it's how you do it, and it's doing it with the most sensitivities that you can muster.
Yeah, I think, I can echo everything that Charlie says, and saying those things with sensitivity and echoing what Bhavna said earlier. People don't set out to do a bad job. So it's being sensitive enough to know they've tried their best in this situation and they just need that little bit of support, those ideas. And it's I don't agree with the good, bad, good sandwich. I think you should be just honest and say, these are the good things, or you've nearly got this right. It just needs this extra to be compliant. And it's having that conversation. Most consultants don't charge anything for an introductory call conversation. Have that conversation with multiple people so that you get on with that person.
Yeah. Anushka?
What was the question again?
What should be...
There are two different things that we on 2 points. So one of the points was what we should be as consultants. So I think that's where we were just heading, which is having empathy rather than sympathy. I think that's a really key point, is being able to understand that lived experience, that walking in their shoes, having empathy for the situation rather than sympathy. And, that's not helpful. Empowering them to make the changes themselves. But I think the selection, I think that's where we started. The question was about how do we select?
Oh, let me see if I can pull it up. Usually this is
select
where Mark kills me.
Sorry, I forgot the question. What should providers look for from consultants?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to say the same as what I said earlier, which is connection. I think that we're so blessed in the sector that there are lots of flavors of consultants and coaches and therapists. And it is about connection, identification. Who do I identify with? Who do I trust? Who can I be really vulnerable with? These are really important things, because then when you put 100% into that consultant, you put all your trust into them, you're more likely to get the results. So I think that's really important, is connection. Who do you connect with? Because whatever the problem, if you can totally 100% be authentic in those conversations, you're more likely to get a good result from that experience.
I also think that if you have a consultant who's constantly agreeing with you all the time, then that may lead to further issues. Sorry, was I gone?
Just for a second.
You were gone, and you were like, if a consultant always agrees with you, and then you just froze.
Okay, so if the consultant always agrees with you and the results aren't as robust, or there's something slightly amiss, then that might also need to be challenged, because I think sometimes these are the uncomfortable conversations need to be held, but in a very respectful manner. So yeah. I do think there are problems when we've gone in after certain consultants, because the consultants were so worried of standing up to the owners. We don't have any problem with that, because we say it as it is, and if you don't like it, we're happy to leave. We don't even tie people in any contracts or anything other than just say, okay, if you want us out, you can give us notice, but we'll leave tomorrow. We've always said that. For me, that's really important.
And it's that idea of conflict that I think everyone needs to understand, that actually conflict is necessary for good teams, for good leadership, for results. If everyone just agrees with you, then they don't trust you. They don't want to conflict with you because you won't listen to them and you won't put things in place. We need people to rebut off. We need people to challenge our views. Not to say you're wrong, but I could say, I'm going to put this improvement plan in place. And I would need someone to go, why? Why? What benefit is it bringing? How's it going to address this? It's not telling me I'm wrong. I just need people to be able to say, actually, have you thought about this? is it
healthy. Yeah.
It's so healthy.
Yeah.
It's so healthy. You know, conflict's amazing. That's how I say that my relationship's healthy, because
But it's not about it's
time.
not aggressive, and it's not mean or rude or disrespectful, but it's actually saying, explain to me. If you can explain to me, you can explain to others. That's it. And I think that is healthy. It keeps you sharp. It really keeps you sharp.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of there's kind of areas of constructive criticism that can be useful to some. Again, it's horses for courses. If you're a compassionate, constructive, critical lead, people can kind of warm to that and actually say, well, actually, you might have a point, but it's how you kind of phrase these things, because sometimes I think you consultants can get a bad name if they're coming in a kind of inspector type fashion, or a kind of CQC regulatory fashion. That can always feel, for some people, a little bit intimidating. So I think it's about having a good balance and making sure that you connect with that person where you can take on board that constructive criticism and not take it personally, but actually kind of lean towards what they're saying and thinking, okay, maybe I should be able to bend a little bit more in this direction, and not feeling defensive. Obviously, you're doing more damage than good, but it's about that kind of accepting, but also having compassionate, constructive.
But also, it's about, it's also about sometimes, people may not like what you say. And I have to say, there are people who genuinely sometimes will turn around and go, I totally disagree with you. I think you're way off. And 9 times out of 10, I've been proven right. But that doesn't mean to say I'll go back and go, told you so. It's my experience has led me to this position where I am able to say these things. In fact, I had a really big meeting today, and we were having a discussion. They were saying, you just say it as it is. And I'm going, but that's years of experience.
Okay.
I've got to the stage where I've got experience to back me up. And that's why I am really comfortable about walking away, because I won't waste my time.
It's professional integrity, isn't it?
100%. And so if a consultant is carrying to you and, changing their reports constantly for you and stuff, there's the danger zone. We don't change our reports just to make somebody happy. The findings are factual. If the medication systems were not robust and there were gaps on the MAR charts, that's a fact. Now, if you tell us to change that, well, it's your report. You change it, be on your head. We're nothing to do with you. And we've had, people will go to local authority and say, BKRCC have been and given us a good. Well, no, we didn't. We're really clear. We didn't. Don't put our name in there. So it's about protecting your integrity, but actually being really firm. I've never, ever been mean to somebody, but I am really honest with people as well. And I think that's, we're really good on that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things for me is that relationship that Anushka's alluded to a number of times. A lot of providers still wait until they're in crisis, and that's when consultancy becomes expensive. Get that relationship, have that person that you've built a rapport with. We just had a client, the manager's really struggling, they're new to post, we want to retain her, we've developed her internally, we want you to support her, great, we can do that, no problem. But I'm on holiday for 3 weeks. That's lovely. The relationship's supposed to be with the manager and bringing her to where she needs to be. So I don't know what you've got to do with it. But actually, when they come back, we'll be a month further down the line if struggling. That's when it's starting to get expensive. And I'd also be wary of any consultant that says they're going to fix everything. The team need to fix the rest. You set them on the journey, show them the path. And I've certainly come across a home. They were so confused when we came in because their consultant was sick, the one that they normally use. And in we come, and we went through a care plan, and I said, right, tomorrow, we've done the training. I want you to pick out the most complex client that you have, the one you're really struggling to care plan for. We're going to write that one together. What do you mean we're going to write it together? Yeah, we're going to write it together, and then you're going to do the next 5, and then I'll come in and audit them. And they just couldn't grasp it because all the previous consultant kept telling them was, that's still rubbish, not quite so politely, but not how. And our job really as a consultancy is to get that service able to lead itself, not make them dependent upon you.
So you mean they were doing what CQC do? I didn't say that because I'm in good friends with them. But there is with our regulation in it is no lie, and we understand why they do that. With the CQC, it's very much that's wrong, but we can't advise you what to use.
It's because they're a regulator. When I was part of CQC, the number of people used to come and say, but you're telling me it's wrong, but you're not telling me how to put it right. Well, that's not my job. And CQC really struggled with that advisory stuff because people were taking action against them. And I think that's the bit that, we've got to remember. The CQC have a role to play. I sometimes think that they've got too much of a role and they shouldn't be having that role. And that's the discussion Martin Green and I are constantly having on the role of the regulator in Westminster, saying the role of the regulator has to change. However, what it is now is that they are a regulator, you are the owner, you run, and the manager, you run a care facility based on those things. They're not going to tell you how to put it right, because then if something goes wrong there, you're going to turn around and say, CQC told me, it's their fault. You have to be really careful. And I think that's the problem we've got.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something around not guaranteeing people as well. If you come in and use me and I come and order everything, you're going to get an outstanding. I can promise you that, because you can't. You can't promise anything. And
the number of bonuses we are offered, I kid you not, if you get us an outstanding, we will give you X amount of money, and we just laugh.
On a couple of, we'll pay you if you get outstanding, otherwise you don't. And actually, there's a complete lack of recognition of your own ownership of that problem, that ownership of that premises. Whether we work all across in hospitals, local authorities, and again, you'll get people that approach you and they essentially want you to run their service, and actually, that's not what consultancy should be for. Of course, you can do it, but really, it's you're supposed to have that desire to want to run it, and there lies your problem. You're not invested in your own service.
Yeah.
So we've got the nights disappearing from us. I don't know how. So I want to do a round of top tips from us all. I don't know, one tip each. Around if a provider is going to use a consultant or a consultancy, what sort of tip can you give them to make sure that it works the best for them, or it doesn't negatively affect the team, or even if it's best on how to approach working with a consultant? And I want to start because I'm listening to everyone's saying, and the most common denominator is communication. And I would just love to say to anyone, if you're hiring a consultant, listen. Don't listen with the intent to reply. That's not what you're hiring them for. There are too many people that I've spoken to in the past to support on medication issues, on recruitment issues, and you're talking to them and you can already see the cogs whirring of what they're going to say to reply to you. And actually, this is the most polite way I can say it. You're not paying someone to listen to you. You're paying to listen to somebody else. So sit, listen, digest, then give it some time and then reply, because otherwise you're not taking in what people say and you're going to waste your money and their time and your time. So for me, communication's key, and listen properly. And I'm going to go around the board clockwise, starting with Anushka.
Okay, so what was the question again?
Listen,
you're taking it off the screen. Tips for providing. Tips for providers utilizing consultancy. So first and foremost, as I've said before, identification, connection with that person, but also don't be afraid to ask questions. Really open up. Really ask those questions that you're afraid of asking a peer, for example, somebody else that's a registered manager just like you. Go deep and really start looking at yourself. Really look at the places and be prepared to look at yourself, because that's often where we need to start in order to make change across an organization. It really does begin with you. So I'd say ask lots of questions. Don't be afraid to ask difficult ones or ones that you're afraid of hearing the answers to, but also be prepared to dig a little deeper on your own stuff.
Yeah, no, fully agree with that one. I think that's a great tip. Bhavna.
For me, it's really about being clear. What is it that people usually come to a consultant because they've got a clear idea what they want, because nobody wants to give money. Nobody wants to pay for anything unless they have to. So be really clear. Be open about it. Have a discussion. Say, okay, this is my wish list. This is what I need. How do we go about doing it? How do I make sure that my staff, everyone, when you leave, so we always say we will not be involved in long-term projects, because we want to be quite specific about what we're doing, how we're doing, and we leave a very, very strong staff group behind.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great tip, Bhavna. Charlie.
For me, it's about being clear on how you're communicating with the team and how the consultants delivering change. For us, our preference is always that it doesn't matter whose idea it is, the manager needs to be seen to be leading it. Otherwise, you leave an undermined manager. We don't really go in for the good cop, bad cop. The manager needs to have those discussions with the appropriate support, and being really clear what the exit plan is, because we're not going to fix everything. We're not going to take over. Your team need to be built up during that process and be ready to take over.
Yeah, it's that long-term implementation, isn't it? It's not just going to be a 1 month thing. It's going to be the rest of your organisational life that this needs to be in place. And Paula,
I think as well as the relationship, it's be honest. Remember, the consultant is on your side. Be honest with, give them all the evidence. Don't make them look for it and waste their time. Give them everything up front so that they can really, truly help you.
Yeah, it's like cheating on a test, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like hiding all the bad stuff and just giving them the good stuff to give you a good positive result. Look, I think that's all been absolutely fantastic tonight. Now, Charlie, I hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot, but I want to come back to you just for one last thing. Because Chris followed up in the comments earlier around the manager cannot blame the consultant, and I do agree. I think it is down to the homes to manage and implement the stuff the best that they can do. But I just wondered whether you might, for people who are watching who don't know what a nominated individual is, because there's more of a focus coming on them now. And heck knows I'm going to be one for 4 homes. So, there's more of a drive for quality nominated individuals. For relatives who might be watching this thinking, well, the registered manager at our home's rubbish, what's the role of the RM and the NI respectively, really quickly?
So the registered manager operates the service on a day-to-day basis. They undertake the quality checks that occur daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. The nominated individual has 2 functions. Legally, they speak on behalf of the organisation. So strictly speaking, they are supposed to be the point of contact. Often other directors get involved between the organisation and CQC, save for the registered manager. The second and arguably far more important role that they hold is the quality check of the manager, of the service. And that's why it's so important that there isn't a really close relationship between the two. It isn't a coffee and a chat. It's a go round and scrutinise that service, because you're the safety net for the people that live within it.
Yeah, I know. I just think it's great to get that clarity out there for people who might not be aware. If you're not just, oh yes.
Can I just add one thing? The reason why CQC, that was back in the days, and I was part of it. The change from nominated individual, a responsible individual, to nominated individual was very clear. So you're not responsible for everything. You are nominated by the directors of the company to be their spokesperson for this legal relationship, which then falls in. So that was the difference. So you are not part of the company representative. You're the spokesperson for the company.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Now, before we go, I do like leaving with anecdotes and jokes, or starting off with anecdotes and jokes. And I don't have Mark today, and I wanted to talk about this at the beginning of the show. I just want to leave everyone with a positive story. So I went out for a Thai dinner recently with my partner. Gorgeous dinner it was. And we got to the restaurant, sat down, sober table, because none of us drink anymore. And we're like, having a drink and everything. And this old chap comes in, and the waitress comes up to him and says, is it your usual tonight? And he was like, yes. She's like, I'll go get you a masterman curry and glass of Chardonnay. And he was like, oh, yes, if you would do, darling. Sat down. So we're sat there going, isn't this wonderful? Like, she knows his order. This is like real community. He had 3 sips of his Chardonnay, got up and left. And I thought, oh my God, maybe we've like scared him off or something, because we're quite a chatty table. So we said to the waitress, nosy as we are, is he not eating now? He's not staying for dinner? She's like, oh no, well, he used to come every week for dinner with his wife, and then she died. And then a year ago, he got diagnosed with dementia. So he comes in and forgets that he's been. So we give him a dinner and we give him a drink, and we don't charge him for it. And some days he eats it and some days he doesn't, so as long as he gets to have his own experience. And I thought, how lovely is that? If a Thai restaurant can understand dementia and get it, we should all be able to do it. And it was just like, I want to come back and do a case study.
Can you just put the name of that in the chat? I want to know the name of that restaurant.
Oh, I'll send it to you privately, because I don't know whether they want me blurting it out there. But I just thought, what a wonderful.
Adam's worried will turn up for a tie with him.
Yeah, just beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah, everyone's going to like swamp this time.
Humans are good human beings. It's only a minority. Yes. Otherwise, we're all good.
100%. This has been the Caring View online health and social care platform. Go to www.thecaringview.co.uk. You'll get our podcast, our shows on there. Don't forget to sign up and register for the Care Show on the 11th and 12th of October. We are there both days. We're bringing HSBC with us on the keynote stage. And we're actually doing a question time, first ever question time at the Care Show, which is going to be quite fun on day one as well in the Care Managers area. So do go check that out. Check out the websites of all of our fabulous guests tonight as well. And if there's any questions, do get in touch. Next Tuesday, we are not live, but we have got an exclusive pre-record that Mark was invited to do with the Care Quality Commission all around digital social care records and transformation. So do tune in for that. It's going to be fab, and that will go live at 7:30 our usual time. Until then, thank you everyone for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you soon.
Take care. Bye. Good night.